a couple seconds here. Let me pull this up real quick. Give me 2 seconds, y'all, and we will be going. But yeah, welcome in. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Okay. All right. There we go. Get everything up. Get everything going. Okay. We're good to go, guys. Welcome in. Welcome into the Coach Ty Show, hosted by me, Coach Ty. And so let's talk a little bit about kind of what's been going on. What that was my dog. Let's talk about a little bit about what's going on and how it kind of affects the channel a little bit, but it don't really affect the channel, but it does. So as of right now, here's what's going to happen. And like I told y'all before, every Friday I will be on Kentucky Roll Call with Stephen Peak of KSR. I'm going to be on there every Friday. God willing, every Friday. Then on top of that, we're going to get some content from that, and we're going to put it on this channel and all of that. There was a great back and forth with me, him, and Trevor about, adoption and stuff like that. It was literally hilarious. So it's stuff like that I want to put on this channel, not only grow my channel, but also to shed light, also to, Kentucky Roll Call, because I love Kentucky Roll Call. That show right there is hilarious. And it, like I said before, it's so weird how the universe kind of works, from just not knowing these guys to now, being on the show every day. I mean, not every day, every Friday, and maybe another day. We'll talk about that, later on, down the line. I don't want to say anything yet, but it's just kind of, it's wild to see how that has actually, changed the landscapes of how I'm going about it. And, seeing Steven put out these videos and stuff like that, it kind of makes me want to it really makes me want to step up my game, seeing his videos and stuff like that. But being on Kentucky Roll Call now every Friday, that's huge. That's a huge plus bonus for me. Shout out to Steven. And then there's another day I'm going to be on with him, but I can't really say too much about that as of right now. But I'll say a little bit more as it happens. But yeah, you will see me on another day of Kentucky Roll Call, which I'm very, very blessed and thankful for. But so that's kind of where I've been a little bit, just grinding with that, trying to get, acclimated to being, driving to Louisville. Then on top of that, talking to different people about this channel and what I want to do with this channel. I want to do a lot more on the Red platform side, long form content and things like that nature. Then I have the other channel. So it's been really, hectic right now, but I'm very, very blessed. We will be doing a lot more content here in starting probably tomorrow. We'll be getting a lot more content. And like I said, we'll be doing a lot of clips from Kentucky Roll Call, and that other day that I'll be on, Kentucky Roll Call other than Friday. And we'll explain that as the days go on. But let's talk about last night. NBA draft happened, and I'm be all the way honest, y'all. I'm going to be all the way honest with y'all. I did not watch it. I didn't watch 1 minute of the NBA draft. I'm just not a fan of the 2-day NBA draft. I remember when I was younger, and, a lot of y'all can contest this. I remember when I was younger, and the NBA draft happened in 1 day. It literally was 1 day, and, from 8 p.m. to 1 a.m., 2 a.m., whenever, that was the NBA draft. And those were kind of fun memories because, I remember when LeBron got drafted. I remember, when a lot of these people got drafted into the NBA, but now, it doesn't give the same oomph. It really doesn't give me the same feel, seeing some of these, seeing the NBA draft now, it just doesn't give me the same, dopamine that it did back then. I legitimately remember watching LeBron getting drafted and, opening up the shirt, seeing the Cleveland 23. And then, I remember all those, even, watching Carl get drafted, watching Anthony Davis and stuff like that. Watching them get drafted, it kind of gives me the question of, do we, as Big Blue Nation, do we really care anymore because we're not seeing our guys be in the top whatever? Now, like I said, I've always been, the guy that always likes to watch it. And yesterday on Kentucky Roll Call, Steve even said, I ain't going to watch it. I have it on in the background. And, on mute. And, I can see that. I mean, it hasn't gave the same allure as it was back in the day. That's just my thought. That's just what I think. I think now that the draft is 2 days, it's like they want to keep pushing it, kind of bleed it dry. But as you all know, JQ did get drafted by the San Antonio Spurs. Jack Pilgrim actually put out something about that, and let me go ahead and read that real quick. Let me see here. Let me go ahead and read that real quick. So Jack said this. It says Jane Quinton's reportedly got a second opinion from one of the nation's top knee doctors, sources tell KSR. Bad news, a cleanup procedure is expected for a permanent result. Could keep him out 6 months. Good news, no long-term knee concerns. And that is a great thing, especially for him. Once we saw him play at St. John's, you could see the potential. You could see how good this young man could be. You could see how good his ceiling could be. Now, this is the only thing that scares me. Yes, no long-term knee concerns. I totally understand that, and I totally would get that. But what kind of scares me is, we say that there's no long-term knee concerns and all of that, but you never know what could happen. We hope for the best, and I hope the young man nothing but success as he, has his NBA career. And I'll be all the way honest. Going to the San Antonio Spurs was perfect for him because do they need him right now? No, they really don't in a way. So he's going to have time to heal. He's going to have time to get acclimated to the Spurs, the situation for the Spurs. But I just don't think, I think that was the best scenario for him. In my opinion, this is just my opinion. I think, there was a little bit more damage to that knee than what people thought there was. That's why he has to have, this cleanup procedure per se. So, and I don't know anything. I don't know if that's true or not, but I do believe that, you're going to have to go in there and clean the knee up so you can have long-term success. And with the Spurs, I have no problem with him getting picked 20th because you're playing kind of with house money. Spurs did get to the NBA Finals. Spurs did get blown out by the New York Knicks, but you're adding a piece that could be really, really good to that roster, and you're banking on long-term success. You're banking on kind of I'm going to pay for it now, and it's kind of like an investment. Anything past the lottery 22nd round, you're pretty much you're pretty much making an investment. Yes, you could say first round pick, whatever, but you're literally making, you're making a investment. And I think being, what we saw from Jaden Quinton's, the things we saw from him from St. John and, watching the workouts, off-season workouts, pre-draft workouts and everything, you could see how good young man could be. You really could see how good he is, but in my opinion, if it keeps him out 6 months, great. Okay. 6 months, it is what it is. I don't bring him back after the first year. I don't bring JQ back year one of his rookie season. I just don't, if I'm the Spurs. And this is far from when Pop was there. In my opinion, I think the Spurs culture has changed. I don't think the Spurs culture is the same as when they had Greg Popovich. I just don't believe it. It is what it is. But there's still little specks of that Spurs culture there. So like I said, I don't think you play JQ at all this year. You go ahead and rest him. You go ahead and make sure that his knee is 110% because you're banking on him long term, and his ceiling is high. His ceiling is very, very high. He still needs to work on his jumper, which is fine. He'll be able to work on his jumper in the league. He'll be able to, do a couple of those things. But in my opinion, I think this is a great fit for him with the Spurs. Doesn't have to be rushed back. Doesn't really have to be. I mean, is anybody needed? Yes, but he's not really needed per se for right now. Spurs thinking long term. Just got to the finals, but my opinion, I think this is a great fit for him. I think this was exactly kind of where I was a little bit worried about. Is he going to go the first round? Is he going to drop to the second round? Zach yesterday said that he didn't think he was going to drop. He was kind of iffy, but seeing the last few picks, he was like, I think he will be in the first round. One thing we do have to get over is I don't think, just my opinion, we got to let go of that first round Kentucky leader. I mean, I just don't think we're going. It depends. It depends. I don't want anybody to reconstruct my words, but it depends. Especially with, the roster Duke has, and, we'll see what happens with Malachi, and we'll see what happens with, Eminem and all of them. We'll see, but I just don't think. I think we're going to have to give up that, consistent lottery picks, maybe. Just maybe. We'll see. We'll see how, it goes on from here out, but I do think I am very, very happy for Jaden. I hope he has an amazing NBA career. I hope he, succeeds in the NBA and wins him the championship. That's just, what I would like to see. But back to, kind of the, NBA draft. I don't know. I mean, y'all might think it's, y'all might like it. I just think it's boring. I just think after the lottery pick, it's just like, all right, cool. I'm hearing the same, they kind of replay the same stuff over and over and over. I just don't like it. I don't like the NBA draft as much. I know some people do because you might find a steal or whatnot. I don't know. After seeing it a couple times, you just get bored with it. You just get kind of like, all right, it is what it is. It's just, but hey, everyone likes their own things. But let's go ahead and talk about practice here. Let's go talk about, what has been going on with practice, my thoughts on it. If you watched sources, not sources, if you was watching Kentucky Roll Call yesterday, they was talking about practice, and Jack had a big kind of like a exclusive about what was going on at practice. I'm not going to, that's a paywall thing. I'm not going to kind of, explain everything, but I am going to talk a little bit about what I think, from kind of hearing about it and all that, what I think is going on from what, was said. Zoom and Alex, they continue to shine, and I'm very happy about what Zoom is doing in practice. And Friday when me and Steven was in the studio, he was telling me how Zoom literally held media day up because he wanted one more game. Because he got beat. He wanted one more game to play, and that's like I was saying on Kentucky Roll Call, that's what you want. You want your point guard to be pretty much dominant. You want that point guard to be out there being the alpha. And to hear that he is such a competitor, he's like, nah, I lost the first game. I lost this last game. No, come on back. We're going to play again. And that's what I like that's what I love to hear. Those little bit of things. Now, it might not seem big to anybody else, but if you're looking through through a coach's eyes or somebody like that, you're hearing, oh, so they're competing. They're going at each other. And that's what you want to hear. I don't know how much that happened last year. I don't know how much the point guard, or whoever was out there saying, nah, y'all beat me. Come on back here. We're going to do it again. I don't think that was happening last year. I just don't believe that. I don't believe last year they were getting that type of competitive games. That's just my thought. That's why I like this. That's why I really do like this. Coach, thank you so much for the follow. That's why I like this team. Now you're hearing, Alex is doing, kind of coming along like everyone thought he was going to. That's huge. That is huge. That was my kind of only two concerns, really. And I will get to Malachi in a second, but that was my two concerns: is how is Alex and Zoom going to play? Now, from what I've heard, Both of them have been right up here. Both of them have been going to, war. And I love that, because that was, if anything would have scared me about this team, was those two and how they would play together. So hearing that those two are playing together and playing, very, very well and kind of leading the group, I'm very excited about that. Just because of the issues with the point guard. And we all know how bad point guards were, the last couple seasons for Pope, not having a backup, injuries. So that kind of scares me just a tad. Just hear me out on this. It kind of scares me out a tad, but in a way it does, but a way it doesn't. It just scares me because I don't, hopefully nothing goes wrong, but from what we've heard about Mo's son, Steven and them were talking about how mature he was, how mature Mo's son was. And I love that. I love hearing, he's talking about he wants to be the hardest worker. He wants to be, known for that. And when you come into a program, or you come into a team, and a lot of people didn't really know too much about him. A lot of people didn't really know kind of what he was, what he would play, and all that. But when you hear those, he wants to be the best, he wants to be the hardest worker, he wants to be this, that's what you want to hear, because it comes infectious. It comes like, I'm going to outwork all of you all. Either y'all going to get on my level or not. And that's the big thing about him. And I from all that I've heard, for all that I have, listening to Steve, listen to Zach, listen to Jacob, and all of them, this is it. This is what that I've heard. I think, especially if you're I'm not saying he's outside of that rotation, and we don't know what that rotation is going to be, but if we're on that outside of a lot of people didn't expect him to kind of play. A lot of them didn't expect him to get in the rotation. To hear him say, you know what, I want to play and I want to be the hardest worker. So think of it like this. Think of it kind of like in any, sports. And I'm not saying he's the last man on the bench. I'm not saying that. But if you have this young man that is, from what they have told me, the young man is just like a little brick, just strong. He's in there getting probably doing a little extra this, getting his game together, and that comes infectious. That comes infectious with any of the other players. Okay, if this young man is willing to work, if this young man is willing to do extra, I need to do extra. Now you're going to see Alex. Now you're going to see Zoom. Now you're going to see Malachi. Now you're going to see Milan. Now you're going to see all these group of young men actually working harder and working more. That's why Friday I was very, very high on what I've heard about, the camaraderie of this team, what this team actually is being and what this team is creating, because now not only are you getting a strong, cohesive unit, you're getting a team that is ready for whatever. Steven brought this up. Cal said this, and I know I don't like bringing up Cal, but Cal said this. Cal, when his first year, and he said, when you're talking about the team, when you put your brother before yourself, that team becomes unbeatable. That team becomes just a juggernaut. And I think that's what we're getting. We're going to get from this team. I heard, Malachi is doing his thing. I think Malachi is I think he's going to be fine. And they talked about the sophomore slump yesterday. And when we talk about sophomore slumps, and we talking about just how what is a slump? When we're talking about slumps, we go from double, 15 and 10. Are we talking about 14 and 10? Are we talking about maybe 9 and 15? If that's a slump, okay, let that be a slump. All right, it is what it is. But I think knowing what you know now, coming into a program that you already know, that you already familiar with, you're going to have some down moments, but the sophomore slump normally, I mean, I've heard a lot of people say that, yeah, the sophomore slump always happens. No, sometimes, but maybe you go from being one of the guys that, maybe top 4 guys to being the guy. So now your standards are extra, extra high. So you're going to slump down a little bit because you are getting familiar with a different type of role as being the guy, as being, the one that everyone is locking in on, because it's going to be you. It's going to be maybe Alex. Everyone's going to be, gunning for, Milan and, watching him shoot. So playing a different role. And then, and we're staying on Malachi. Hearing that they said that they want him to initiate the offense a little bit more, I'm all here for it. I'm all here for that because he's going to have to learn. And I said this on the show, and I said this on Kentucky Roll Call. I want to see him put on, and for some strange reason, the listeners thought I was sitting here saying that he's the next Giannis, which I did not say. Me and Trevor took up for me on that one. So shout out to Trevor for that. But I'm just saying that he has to put the ball on the ground. He's got to be comfortable doing that. Now, I'm not saying he's got to be out there be Kyrie. I'm not saying he's got to be out there being, Steph Curry or whatever. But he's got to be able to put the ball on the ground. And initiating the offense is good. Zach and them were talking. What I like about Malachi is he's smart. You can kind of tell he is a little bit more, basketball IQ mind. So him is, and I think he's a better passer. I think he's a better passer than what we give him credit for. So if he's initiating the offense, if he's out there kind of, boom, catch, and now we're, getting the offense going, I'm fine with that. I think we'll be okay if we do it just a little bit. Cats by 90. No, that's right. I know that's right. I think that'll be fine. I'm not concerned about it. What I would like to see him do is shoot a couple more threes. Now, when I said that before, people jumped down my throat. He shouldn't be shooting threes. He needs to be on that block. My guys, let's be all the way honest. It's okay if he shoots some threes. If he shoots 3 a game and makes 1 to 2, great. But we got to limit him to 3, okay? Or something like that. I have no problem with that. I think it's perfectly fine if he shoots some threes and, it'll be okay. Like I've said before, I'm a broken record when it comes to this. I think if he's able to, I like Pope. I really like this guy. Works out, but if it don't, we have to move on quickly. Well, here's the thing. And here's the thing. Yes, I do agree. We do have to move on quickly, but not too quickly. And hear me out. The reason we kind of were in this situation is because we moved quickly. Now, I know there was reports out there. It's either Shaka Smart or Mark Pope. I get that. I totally understand that. But if the reports are true, which I have no idea if they're true or not, we were looking for good press. We were looking, for something to kind of, get our eyes off a different situation, which we won't speak about, and give us some good press where nothing is going to, come about the hire. That's why we didn't get Bruce Pearl. That's why we didn't get a couple of those other coaches, because they were told, no, we're not going after them. Now, if we didn't hurry along and we waited a couple more weeks, we don't know what would have been out there. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't really know. Like you said, would it be Billy D? Would it be this? Would it be that? We really don't know who else would have kind of got. Yeah, they did reach out to some people and they said, hey, let's wait a little bit. But I understand in a way why they kind of hurried up. And in the first year, it paid off really well. Second year, not so much. This year, it's, to be determined. I think if Pope doesn't work out, we have to talk to Billy D. Well, it depends. Does Billy D want to go to Michigan? You know what I'm saying? So I agree. I wouldn't have mind that. But how many times has Billy D turned it down? So we would have to kind of like see what is going to happen with that. But I agree. We do have to move on quickly, but we have to move smartly. And another thing is this new AD. This new AD is all about money. This new AD is all about, let's get this money in here. So that kind of throws another wrench into something, is saying that, kind of saying like, we're going to be getting money. If you listen to a lot of his interviews, especially the one with Matt Jones, if you listen to a lot of those, he's talking about fundraising. He's talking about getting this money. So now, does that mean that we're going to have a little bit more money to go out here and probably land, now I'm on a tyrant of, if Pope doesn't work out, and we all do. We all want Pope to work out. We don't want the guy to fail. We want to be in Final Fours. We want to see lottery picks. We want to see championships. But we're talking in hypothetical of if he does not work out. This AD here, all about money. So does he go get those big fish coaches? Does he say, hey, listen, checkbook, hey, let's go? I'm hearing Billy D wants to come to Kentucky. Well, if he wanted to come to Kentucky, I believe he would have been there, but it was a sticky situation with what's going on with in the NBA. So if he wanted to come, I don't know if he would have told Kentucky wait a couple weeks, but we'll take all that with a grain of salt. You know what I'm saying? We'll take all of that with that little bit of grain of salt, and then we will, if it doesn't work out, we'll see what he does. But does Billy D want to take a year off? That's the big question. Does he want to take a year off, or does he want to get into the coaching? Because Michigan's already reached out to him. Let's see. Was a season ticket holder for football under Joker wanted him to work? I agree. It's like one of those things where you fell in love with the guy when he played here. Joker. Good dude. Just bad, just bad situation. Same thing with Mark Pope. Good dude, great guy, great guy. First year, everyone's all cheering. Yeah, let's go. Yeah. Second year, it's like, whoa. What do we do? You know what I'm saying? So this year, I go into this season, kind of not really clean slate. I kind of want to go clean slate, but then again, in the back of my mind, it's like when I was on Kentucky Roll Call. Make sure you check out Kentucky Roll Call 12 to 2, Big X Sports Radio. I'm there every Friday, and another day I'll be on there with Stephen Peak of KSR. But in the back of my mind, I'm always nervous. Is he going to, lose his mind and start doing some crazy things? And, some things just are unexplained that he does. Some things are just so unexplained. The substitution pattern, the play calling at times. Do I think he's X and O's good? Yes, I think his X and O's is fine. It's just the flow of the game he can't grasp at times. It's like when the game gets tight a little bit, he starts kind of losing it. And then it gets to the point where he just starts throwing stuff, at the walls to see if it sticks. And that's kind of what scares me. You want these Kentucky guys to work out. Unfortunately, sometimes, no. You're 100% right. I totally agree. I want him to work out, but I want the best fit for here. I love Jasper. I know his family. But it wasn't a good fit for here. So I got to know that, okay, I did a good fit. Cool. Go somewhere else. Be great. Same thing with Mark Pope. I am the biggest Mark Pope. I'm the biggest Mark Pope critic. But when he does something good, he just does something good. I'm totally with you. I want this guy to work out, but unfortunately, if it doesn't, all right, cool. Let's go find us the best coach that fits the University of Kentucky. I am totally right there with you. But I also got to give him a chance this year, especially with this type of roster. And I said this before. I think this roster Taylor is a tailor made for him. This is your type of roster. You have shooters. You have Zoom, who's a bulldog. Then you got Alex on the wing. You got Malachi back in the middle. You got Usman out there, who's, I think you have the good nucleus for an amazing team. I still say in the NCAA tournament, they're 3 to 5. I don't think they're a top 10 team. That's just my thoughts. But I got to give you the benefit to have a third season to show me, do you have what it takes here? One thing about Kentucky basketball and, the big Blue Nation, I love everybody on the Big Blue Nation. Is there some rotten apples? Yes, but oh well, who cares? We demand excellence. We're such a small, to be honest. We expect, yeah. Look, Jake, you're going into exactly. You see, Zach, Jake, we're right here. Big Blue Nation expects greatness. Big Blue Nation expects lottery picks. Big Blue Nation expects everybody wants to come here. We want to hang banners. We want to hang SEC banners. We want to hang NCAA banners. We're spoiled. But you know why we're spoiled? It's because, think of it like this. You eating filet mignon every night. It's good. Melt in your mouth. And then you go to Spam. Spam don't taste the same. Then you might go to a little ribeye every now and then. All right, you get a little taste of that. All right. And then you taste, and then what happens? We beat Duke. All right, we get some more Wagyu. And then next game, we lose. Now we go back to Spam. It's just, we're so spoiled in what we want, but that's what makes Kentucky basketball so great. That's what makes Kentucky basketball so different. I'm going to just take my instance. Just the few months that I have done this, just the few months that I have been a part of the media side, I've always been the player. I've always played or coached, but being a part of the media side of this and seeing how strong invested BBN is, to see how, a lot of you all didn't know who the hell I was. Now we're having a conversation. I'm going to throw that into basketball terms. We're so invested every year. And when Mark Pope kind of went away from, you're 100% right. That's what makes us exactly. When Mark Pope got this job and we not sold out, packed out Rupp Arena to welcome Mark Pope. Name another college in America that would have done that. All there was the team walking out, holding the trophy, Mark Pope giving an amazing State of the Union. No other college program could do that. I don't care what anyone says. No other college program in America would have done that. Because you know why we did that? It's because we support our own. We support Big Blue Nation. We support Mark Pope. He won a title here. But love's a two-way street. If you're not getting it done, we got to move on. And that's why like you said, this is the hardest coaching job in America. Why is this the hardest college coaching job in America? Because of a couple reasons. One, Big Blue Nation expects greatness. Big Blue Nation expects everything. Also, you got to be the governor. You got to be the mayor. You got to go out here and shake hands. You got to go to Wheeler's Pharmacy and eat breakfast. You got to go to all of these places, shake hands, go around the country, go around all these little counties, these little hollers and everything, and, be that guy. It drains you. It literally drains you. But this coaching job isn't for everybody. It's not for everybody. We seen that. We saw what happened with Billy G, but shoot, Billy G was out every night drinking. It's just not meant for everybody. And to see one of our own, Mark Pope, pop into that coaching chair and see, He knows what is expected. He knows what Big Blue Nation is wanting. He knows the expectations that we have. So that kind of made me question why are we going radio silent when things were bad? Why did the call-in show? Why do we have this? Why do we have that? We don't know. But I think and I said this on Kentucky Roll Call. I said, I think what happens is it gets to you, but also Mark Pope had to sit in a room, and I don't know. I don't I've met him a couple times. I don't know him personally, but I think he had to sit in a room and just analyze a lot of things and just figure out what is going on, what worked, what didn't work. The big thing I thought was hiring Mo Williams. I think Mo Williams is his good, Batman Robin combo, and we're hearing Mo now is the closer, is the one guy that is getting, the closing the deals and all of that. But sometimes you got to understand that the way you used to operate doesn't work nowadays. So tough to, as much as we can't expect that. We can't expect a national championship every year, but you know what? We expect it every year. When you go anywhere and see somebody with a Kentucky shirt, man, shoot, we're gonna win it this year. I hope. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, we're gonna win. You know what I'm saying? It's what we expect. It's the standard. We don't hang banners up for Final Fours or whatnot. We just don't. And that's what Mark Pope said. If you look at the Joe Kraft Center, they don't hang nothing, drive for 9, whatever you want to call it. Well, you don't hang up things like that. And I think it's a great thing to see. But this team, and going back to my main topic, was I love to see the cohesive unit of this team. I love to see them at the lodge learning about each other. That's one thing that didn't happen last year. They all had their own apartments, but this year Pope got them in the lodge. And now you're going to learn about each other. You're going to learn about your brother. You're going to learn about, what he likes, what he don't like. And I said this on, and I sound like a broke record. I said this on Kentucky Roll Call. You're going to have fights in practice, and it's going to carry over to the lodge. Now you have to see that dude every single waking moment that you're awake. You're going to have to figure it out. You're going to have to fight it out. And I don't mean fist fight, but you're going to have to learn to, communicate with your brother, which then in turn helps in the court, because you could tell last year everyone was on a different page. Now that you're in the lodge, now that you're able to communicate and understand what makes my brother mad, what can I do to, help him a little bit? Now that camaraderie becomes on the court. And instead of losing maybe 2 or 3 games because everyone isn't on the same page, you might be able to win those 2 or 3 games. That's the reality that I like to see. And I think Pope let some things slide last year that he, might have slept through the cracks. But when you have people like Mo, when you have people like that's been there before, now, you got Mo in his ears. Hey, coach, we need to get that together. We need to lock that in. And you need that guy. You don't need a bunch of yes men on your coaching staff. You need people that's not really going to challenge you, but also going to be like, hey, you might not seen that. And that's another thing that I think Pope kind of did that I was like, I don't know. I think a lot of times Pope wanted to do everything himself, and now he was spread way too thin. Now he is delegating it to his other coaches, which I think is what he needed to do. Relax, I believe Sweet 16 run every year is very achievable. Then whatever happens, yes and no. I agree. Yes, that is realistic. But I mean, if you kind of look at the landscape of, if you kind of look at some of the, matter of fact, hold up. Let's take a look. Let's take a look. If anybody's got the data on this, let's find out. Most consecutive. Sweet 16. Basketball. All right. Let's take a look here. Boo, 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 boo. Now, you know how Google is. All right, let's take a look here. Let's take a look. Let's take a look. Let's take a look. Let's take a look. All right, now we'll take a look here on this. Oh, my bad. All right, so yeah, no. I get what you mean. I don't. I'm now you. Here's the nerd in me. I'm like, who did do that? All right, so look. I mean, if you're going 9 and you're going 9, you're going 9, 9, 5, 5. I think I'm with you. I do believe it is doable. I totally agree that it is doable. But also, yes, Sophie, it is doable. But also, I think we also have to figure out what style Pope is going to recruit at. Now, if he's bearded Pope and he is legitimately getting these, top 10, recruits, okay, I can go with that. But if he's getting these 2 to 3 year guys in, in the, these 2 or 3 year guys, I really want to see next year. I really want to see what happens recruiting wise, because that's kind of, we did, rely on the portal this year a little bit more than what I think we should have. I do believe that we should have had some incoming, high schoolers as well. But I also I want to see, yes, he did, get Ryan. I want to see what he's going to do going forward with the high school recruiting, because I really believe you're going to have to get some of these top name high school kids if that's what if that's what he wants. And I hope he is. I hope he does. If that's the case, yes, I do agree. Top, Sweet 16, every year, that'd be great. Part of my opinion is making coaches go more toward them instead of developing. Yes, 100%. 100%. I totally agree, because it's easier. It's a lot easier to be, it's a lot easier to fit in that type of player than having to develop a high schooler. And, you look at Cal, I know a lot of people hate talking about Cal, but you look at Cal, that's what he does. He gets the high schoolers like Acuff and all them. And then, I want to see how good Pope is at developing, I want to see how good Pope is developing the player per se. I want to see how good he is taking that type of talent and taking them to the next level. I mean, you could say Amari Williams, you could say a couple of these kids or whatnot, but I do want to see how good, I think I'm a broken record. I think Mo on this staff does a lot of good for him, because he's been there. He's been he's been at the top of the top. He is, yes, coaching career is but that still doesn't take. Some people are great head coaches, but some people are phenomenal assistant coaches. It just fits them. So could Mo be that one guy that could be a phenomenal assistant that is tailor-made for Mark Pope? Because let's be all the way honest. Mark Pope is maybe just a tad bit hard for these kids to relate to. Okay, it is what it is. But Mo isn't. Mo played in the league. Mo grew up just like these other young men. So, like I said, it might be a tailor-made fit that is great for him. I say would have loved second year with Butler and Williams. Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be that. It'd be good. It'd be good. It would have been good. I just don't know. It'd be an interesting. It would be interesting. Still, going back to the practice though, I do love, hearing, that practice is intense. Practice is, like I said before, hearing that, Zoom is that alpha, Zoom is that voice talking junk to them, making them better. I do really, really like hearing that. That's what you want out of your point guard. Milan is, hitting his shots. One person that I really think that people are kind of sleeping on just a tad is Jerome Morton. I think, and I don't mean that he's going to be a game changer, but I think Jerome, and I coached against him at GRC. I think Jerome fits this team very, very well because he's going to come in and give those extra, those breathing minutes, being able to hit the shots, being able, to not turn the ball over. I think Jerome is going to be very, very good when it comes to that. Jake, thank you so much for the follow. I do think Jerome is going to be really, really good. Now, I'm not saying that Jerome is going to be the game changer. I'm not saying none of that, but I do believe that Jerome, you're going to see Jerome a little bit more than what people think they're going to. Then on top of that, like my wild cards is everyone already, everyone knows. Braden, Braden and all them. Like, what are we going to get out of him? In my opinion, that's just extra. That's just extra what we're going to get on top of, the top 7, top 8. We've heard, he's a work in progress. We've heard that, he's coming in to be the next Tayshaun Prince, which I hate to hear. And nothing against people that say that. I just hate to put that tag on him, and anything less than that kind of hurts the kid. I kind of wish that they would kind of lay off that just a tad. And I know a lot of people like they want the comparisons. When I reached out to one of the scouts about Usman, and the dude told me, a couple players that, he was like, and I was like, all right, cool. He, I do like it, but then again, I don't want that type of pressure on this young man. I don't want to have him, this, the minimum is here. I don't want that. Let's go ahead and talk about Nikola. I got a lot of heat about Nikola and, what I thought, when I reported, when I, heard the news and, all of this. It is what it is. Like, from what I've heard, there's a lot of colleges out there that are, kind of, saying, hey, do you really want to go to Kentucky? Do you know if MARKPOPE is going to be there? Do you know this? Do you know that? And that's just the name of the game right now. That is just the name of what college basketball is. It's a dirty game. It's a dirty world out here. So from what we heard after I made the video, and, when we heard Friday and then Saturday, how good he was. And then going on, we heard, it was Michigan and it was UCLA. Now Michigan is out, so I'm guessing it would be UCLA, but we don't know. And do we walk away from it? That's the question. If I'm MARKPOPE, and this is what I said yesterday to them, is if I'm filling the 15th spot, if I'm the one that is out here that's going to, make the final decision on that 15th spot, unless it's a sure thing, unless it is a yes, I am on the way, send me the papers, I'm signing, I'll be there tomorrow, I don't know if I would go with anybody else other than a walk-on. And what I probably would do is just, hang up a flyer. Hey, if you played high school basketball or whatever, grades, whatever, come try out. That's kind of what I would do. Reason why I say that is they're already going through summer workouts. They're going through conditioning. They're going through a lot of these things. The camaraderie is there. The cohesive is there. They're all been in the lodge. So when you add another person into that mix, when you add another person that, is the variable unknown, you don't know, you really don't know that kid personally or whatnot, does that mess up the cohesive unit of the group? Especially if you get one of those kids that might potentially start, might be, 6th, 7th man. Now that depth chart, is kind of going all over the place. You got to teach them the system. You got, you kind of got to backpedal a little bit. I don't know if I would do that. That's just my thought. I don't know if I would do that per se. I really think if we don't get a clear cut, yes, I'm on the way. Send me the papers. I think we go that route. I really believe that. I think we go that route and just, this is our roster. I think this roster is good. I think this roster is, like I said, top 3 in the NCAA. It's still not giving them, the one seeds. I'm not giving them that yet. I'm just not. I have to see, how they play. Have to see, get my eyes on them. Then I might be able to, justify going up a little bit higher. But if it's just me, I am making sure that this team right now shuts out the noise and just focuses on them. I think last year when you heard Pope say, I have a Ferrari, or, this team shoots this percent, this team, man, this team don't miss. I don't need none of that. I just need you to focus on this team focus on each other, and be ready for November, December, January, February. Find your stride in February and March, and let's see where this team goes. I think if we do that, I think we will be perfectly fine. Like I said, do I think this is a national championship team? No, I don't. I don't. As bad as I want it to be, as bad as I want to see this team win a national championship and bring back, that, finally we got, that off our back. I don't think this is. So we go into this season pretty much ready for whatever. There is some variable unknowns. I think the 3 to 4 spot is going to be rotated. We're going to see a lot of these. We're going to see a lot of, rotation in that. And then, guys, we just got to, it's time to go. It's time to, roll the ball out here in November and see what we do. But guys, that, like I said, I just want to come on here and holler at everybody. I haven't been live in a while. I've been, moving and grooving. But yes, make sure you're checking in Kentucky Roll Call every day, Monday through Friday, 12 to 2. Big X Sports Radio with Stephen Peak. I will be on there every Friday, and then another day throughout the week here soon. We'll talk about that another time, guys. Thank you all for everything. I will be back probably I'll probably do another one here in the next couple days. But guys, thank you so much for everything. I'll see y'all soon. Peace.